Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode on the channel. I'm Dr. Nasser, soon to be hospitalist in the state of Florida, and I'm going to go over a case. This is our new series that I created. I want to have this morbidity mortality kind of series where we talk about real cases that led to lawsuits and death. And if you're a resident, you will see this. You'll be presenting M&M cases, and if you're a doctor, you may be part of a committee of M&M. And so I think it's very useful to go over cases like this. Without further ado, let's jump into this case. So this is a case of a 57-year-old male who presents to the ED, and his complaint is that there was a very sudden jolt of back pain that was radiating into his chest when he was eating dinner with his family. And the ED, when he arrived, they got 2 EKGs and chest X-ray, and both tests were negative. But during the stay, into a few hours, the patient did develop some shortness of breath, some nausea, and bradycardia. However, the patient was diagnosed with non-specific chest pain and heat exhaustion, and his treatment was only IV hydration. He was discharged home, and tragically, unfortunately for him and his family and all his kids, the patient was found dead in the morning, and the autopsy did reveal an aortic dissection as a cause of his death. Very important, guys, not to miss aortic dissection. If you have watched Clinical Problem Solvers, or you may have heard of the 4+2 mnemonic, the 4 for cardiac being ACS, aortic dissection, Takotsubo's and tamponade, 2 for pulmonary being a pneumothorax and a pulmonary embolism, and 2 for esophageal being rupture and impaction. Of course, there's other causes, but these are the no misdiagnosis of chest pain. Please, guys, if you're going to be working in the ED in the hospital, always use this mnemonic. Do not miss out on the important cause of chest pain. Now, for this patient in the evening, when he arrived, he did have that chest pain and back pain which radiated to his chest. In the evening, he came to the ED. There, they got their test for the EKGs and X-ray that were negative. Then he did develop some short of nausea and bradycardia. However, the patient was later discharged after just IV fluids, and the next morning was dead. So you can see how fast this all developed. A very high mortality situation. There was a big missed opportunity. This patient did present with your classical presentation of aortic dissection. He should have received a CTA of his chest, which is the gold standard for diagnosing aortic dissection. However, they did not do that. Unfortunately, the system failed because the patient did develop other symptoms, shortness of breath, nausea, bradycardia. However, it didn't prompt any reevaluation by the providers. And inappropriate discharge, of course, the patient was discharged home without completely ruling out those life-threatening conditions. They just said non-specific chest pain and heat exhaustion. So again, I'm gonna say here, this is only for educational purposes. It's always easier to go in retrospect, but this is not a judgment of how they did, but really for us to learn from the case and the things that we could do not to miss and make sure this doesn't ever happen again. Aortic dissection, of course, the risk factors: hypertension, genetic disorders such as Marfan, Ehlers-Danlos, connective tissue disorders, and anatomical factors could be a pre-existing aortic aneurysm, bicuspid aortic valve, a coarctation of aorta. Demographically, in males 60 to 80 with smoking, cocaine, trauma, and even pregnancy. But remember that smoking is the most important risk factor for developing an AAA. However, hypertension is the most important risk factor for aortic dissection. Please do not mix those up, specifically for the boards. How does aortic dissection occur? It's a tear in that intimal layer, in the inner layer, which allows the blood to flow into the walls and the layer, separating them, creating a fast lumen that can then expand. And within that fast lumen, a lot of things can go wrong. You can get clots, and then, or you can have that ruptured. Or you can have it expand basically to create a cardiac tamponade. And that cardiac tamponade, in fact, if somebody is having a hemorrhagic cardiac tamponade and the physicians don't know and actually try to needle the compress, that you could cause a patient to hemorrhage and die very fast. Epidemiology, it's not very common. However, it's 2.6 to 3.5 per 100,000 persons a year. The mortality is 1 to 2% per hour if it's not treated. And even if it is treated, you have a high mortality rate approaching 27%, very commonly misdiagnosed, up to 38% on initial presentation. So it's very important to take it seriously. The diagnostic approach, the gold standard is the CTA with the most sensitivity and specificity. TEE is only if TA is unavailable. MRI, again, time constraints with it and patients monitoring, and also just being a limited resource in many places. D dimer is very, very sensitive as with very low specificity. History, guys. History is very important. Sudden severe back or chest pain, radiating with an abrupt onset, with risk factors. Those are all very important. And of course, some of the things you can find on physical exam would be that aortic regurgitation may murmur. Sometimes you can get a blood pressure on either arm, and you'll see the difference in between the blood pressure in different arms. And you, specifically if it's greater than 20, that could be a sign. And then signs of end organ malperfusion. You could have strokes, paraplegia. You can have limb ischemia. You can have acute kidney injury, and I've seen a case of that where it was a type B dissection and it involved the renal arteries causing that, and they could have enteric ischemia depending on the location and how far advanced this section continues. And hypertension or shock could be rupture or cardiac tamponade. So what went wrong really? The initial presentation, they failed to consider aortic dissection as part of the differential diagnosis. Secondly, there was over-reliance on the normal EKG and the x-rays. Thirdly, the patient developed bradycardia, hypotension, and nausea, other symptoms. It didn't prompt a reevaluation. And lastly, the patient was discharged without ruling out a life-threatening condition. A lot of things went wrong there. Now, very important for us to be aware of biases, cognitive biases such as anchoring bias, just because initial focus was on a non-specific chest pain and heat exhaustion, and the patient, that prevented the physicians or providers to consider alternative diagnosis. The premature closure, accepting that initial diagnosis, again, without considering other possibilities. Availability bias, just because a lot of people can develop MSK pain or heartburn, doesn't mean that every patient is going to be that. Search satisfying. If you find a plausible explanation, you stop looking for other reasons. That's another type of bias, but being aware of these can help. Now, workflow issues definitely contribute. The risk stratification was not done properly. Discharge protocols for a chest pain patient was not done properly, and there was no communication or adequate communication between the nursing staff and the physicians or about the evolving symptoms. And then the resource constraints. Maybe this ED was very crowded, or there was time pressures, or there were other priorities and the physicians were busy with multiple intubations or trauma cases and such. But again, these are not excuses. We need to make sure that we deal and we prevent this. Now, lessons learned and prevention strategies: always maintain a very high index of suspicion for acute onset chest and back pain to be aortic dissection. Recognize the limitations of your test. Don't heavily rely on your chest x-ray or an EKG. Respond to any clinical evolution. Sometimes patients sit in the ED for long hours, and if there's no proper communication, they may have a change in vitals and you don't really know. Address cognitive biases. Always make sure you're not anchoring on things. Make sure you're not search satisfying. Make sure you're not picking the most available diagnoses to you. And protocols are really helpful. Decision support tools, using UpToDate, using more imaging, using AI properly, that are integrated into your EHR systems, for example, and approved for your use, can help. Discharge safety criteria for patients with chest and back pain to always rule out diagnoses. Educating the ED physician, the nurses, having more M&M conferences in the hospital. That could really help with this. And of course, I wanted to just show you here the CTA being the sensitive and specific there, and most available, although MRI is really the most specific, but not readily available all the places and not as fast. This is a TEE, as you can see, 90% sensitive, 94% specific, and this is a chest x-ray, only 67% sensitive and 70% specific. And this is our D dimer, very sensitive, however not very specific. And these are some questions to always ask if you're going through cases like this. And lastly, this case ended up in a very big legal settlement of $4.8 million. It was for wrongful death. The allegations were failure to timely diagnose aortic dissection, failure to order appropriate diagnostic testing, premature discharge without ruling out life-threatening conditions, failure to recognize the evolving clinical signs of bradycardia and shortness of breath, and the case fortunately led to institutional changes, which caused them to revise their chest pain protocols, implement decision support tools. It made considering aortic pathology mandatory in patients with chest and back pain. They provided more regular simulation training for aortic emergencies, and they modified their discharge criteria for patients with acute thoracic pain. And again, this is for your FYI, mortality rate increasing. This is for a treated patient. As you can see, mortality can go as high as 20% even after treatment, and this is untreated. You can see within a day you're already at 30%, 2 days you're at 50%, 3 days you're at 70%, and so on and so forth. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to comment, subscribe, guys. This is only for educational purposes. We're going through these cases to prevent deaths like this, tragedies like this, and learn from. And if you enjoyed these episodes, please let me know. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. I'll see you guys on the next episode.